Alright guys, how you all doing?
Hello.
Dave.
We are Toska and we just wanted to say a huge thank you for ordering our vinyl.
Yes, thank you.
Of Ode to the Author.
Yeah, we hope you enjoy it. It's been a long and fun couple of years that we've had out of Ode to the Author. And as you can probably tell from the setting we're in right now, we are in the studio at Middle Farm working on the album. But we've had a lot of requests and comments, people asking us what were we thinking when we wrote it, or what do the songs mean to us. So we thought it'd be cool to do basically a talk through of Ode to the Author and the tracks, and kind of let you know how we think about it and what we think about the songs.
Chalk Teeth. It's by nature of its name quite a jarring, horribly uncomfortable kind of song.
Yeah, it's kind of like that sort of nails on a blackboard kind of thing. It's supposed to just be a bit jarring and awkward and frantic.
Yeah.
Personally, I hate that. When someone scrapes a knife on a plate.
Well, imagine having teeth made out of chalk and going.
Yeah, I know.
Like that.
Yeah,
it'd be horrible.
Yeah, and I think it has that feeling, doesn't it? The song, it's sort of, although it's quite straight and aggressive compared to some of the other stuff on the record, it's very it's quite uncomfortable as well.
Yeah, it was the first song we wrote as Toska. There was one riff that I had from back in the Cove, came around to the Cove ages ago, and I was trying to come up with some stuff for God knows what, and it was one that I remember, and it was inspired by Stray from the Path,
right?
The opening riff of Chalk Teeth, because I'd been sessioning that album that you got me for my birthday, and then that riff got brought when we got together in a room. We were like, "What should we just jam?" And I was like, "I have this riff," and then it just turned into...
Well, I think it makes a good kind of opener, not only because it's the first track that we wrote as Toska, but it's got more space where it's just sort of grooving and straight in it. So even though the song structure's not necessarily a normal one, it's a good way to ease yourself into the sound that is what we do, I guess. Yeah, because
it kind of has that. Yeah, although we have that weird edge as well, we really go off on one in songs. I think, like you said, Chalk Teeth has that. It's got a lot of groove and a lot of aggression, and it's got its quirky moments as well. But I guess you can hear how it was the start of our writing. You can hear where we went from Chalk Teeth.
We crammed a lot into it, I guess, because we because we'd been not writing prog for years and years and years, and also really wanting to get into that kind of band and do it. It being the first song, it was kind of just a bit of everything. So it starts with a
bit of an experiment.
Yeah, it has the heavy, it has aggressive, it has raw, it has ambience, quirkiness, odd times, bit of the old genre.
I think some people, if we ever get called a gent band, which we're definitely not, but I mean it has that moment in it with
the fives and sevens.
Yeah. Should we explain the fives and sevens?
That moment in the song.
It's actually 2 5s and 2 7s. It's 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5. Down down bam bam. That is 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, and then it's down down bam bam bam. Is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1. But if you do your 5s and 7s, it's like that.
You're gonna clip our talking mic doing that. Drummers always trying to be the loudest. In any case, it's true what Ben just said.
Yeah,
it wasn't an intentional let's write odd time riffs.
No, I think that sort of thing happens quite a lot. We don't really use theory to write the songs, but often, particularly when it comes to time signatures and stuff, and sometimes other stuff as well, but we'll break it down as a means of communication between us, or as a means of working out what else might be possible. We'll sort of break down the theory side of it. So that would have been one of those things where it was quicker to break that riff down and explain it as 5s and 7s, so that Ben could just go straight into doing it than having to learn the pattern by ear and then doing it. So it's interesting the theory, the way it works its way in, and the way that we use it. Yeah, I guess.
I think to round off Chalk Teeth as a tune, I suppose it's unintentionally been the one that I suppose people that have come to watch us live have kind of been waiting for that song, because it was the first one that came out. We did playthroughs of it. It's the first track on the EP. it seems to be a favourite of people's, and I think for us, we love it because it's our first song that we did, is Toska, but it's almost kind of like the one that it was like the doorway into what we were going to do as a band.
I would say it's like being Robbie Williams singing Angels at Wembley.
What? I was like, where are you even going with that?
Because you know,
the clapping. Man.
Sorry, because Robbie Williams. I'm saying Toska's like Robbie Williams. When you look at it like that, you know, he's got Angels. He's played it loads of times. Everyone loves it. But you know, he's played Angels a few times. I'm just saying, Toska is like Robbie Williams and Short Teeth is like Angels. All right, track 2 on the EP.
Chasm.
Shazam. It's actually pronounced Shazam. Most people don't know that, but yeah.
I thought it was part of Chaz and Dave.
Chaz and Dave.
It was Chaz M for the last name Mulberry.
Yeah. Chaz Mulberry was the original composer of what we now call Chasm, so we don't have to pay him any copyright royalties. We've called it Chasm and played it as Toska. What do you think about the song? How do you describe it?
Dave, go first.
It's a very erratic. It's a really difficult song to describe. It's mainly just sort of. It's just erratic, isn't it? It's just a mental piece of music.
That's why we called it Chasm, because when we started writing it, it was like, how do we get from A to Z with this song? Because it's like deliberate. I think when we set out to write, it was deliberately going to be our prog kind of like, this is as weird as we can get progressively at the time.
And heavy. You know, like, I mean, I remember when we wrote it, it was like. Really,
it has to be heavy, like.
No, back in the sort of mid '80s, my dad made a video game,
right?
And he mapped out our house, and you had to run away from the, I think it was washing machine or tumble dryer that would chase you around our house, and you had to run away from it. It was a bit like sort of Pac-Man kind of style. I feel like Chasm would be a really good theme tune to a video game like that. It's got that kind of like tumble dryer thing, and you're like on the edge and you're trying to run away from it, and it's catching up.
I love it.
So that's what I think of Chasm.
I think if I was to put myself in a place in terms of songs, inspiration, all that kind of stuff, I would have said like Pussyfoot by Sixth and AM War by Carnival. Those are the two kind of, for me, that's kind of where I was like feeling when trying to come up with parts.
Interesting. Yeah, I can hear that. I think there's, I don't know, like the drums, particularly like in the verse, I'd not really played something like that. You know, it has that sort of skip when it comes back in. I remember when that first playing it, I had to come up with some like, my right hand goes over my left.
It was like that 8-bit kind of fuzz sound on my pedal, and I was playing a thing, wasn't I? It was like a video game music type thing. And I was like, Ben, work out what that is, and then just play to it.
Yeah, because it has that really weird bar at the end. But that I love that because when we're playing it live, hey Studio Moth, it's been a good friend of ours these last few days. When we play it live, and sometimes we'll kick into it as like the second song. As in, like in the order on the EP, and you can see when that verse comes in, it's the first really odd moment. You know, with that time signature, you can't actually just nod along to it. It has the skip. Yeah. And you see people. It was really funny. You watch back a video of people watching, and they're like,
"Where do I go?" Yeah. Yeah. I think what else I would probably say about it is that although it kind of might sound like a really crazy weird prog song, actually it's the most formulaic structured song on apart from Infantile on the record, because it starts, you got an intro, you got a verse, then your little chorusy bit, it goes back to a verse, then the chorus again but a heavier version, then a chorus, then middle 8, then the song ends with the heavy riffs.
Yeah, true.
And the middle 8 is where, middle 8, it's way longer than 8 bars, but the idea was that it was that's when we went really prog, didn't we? Yeah. With those kind of slightly jazzy chords and the all that bit, it's just like prog.
Which is kind of like the secret level on this video game.
Yeah. And
that would happen.
Fun fact for the Toska Initiated about Chasm is that when we wrote that, it was also in the era of the band where we were using sort of spoken word samples as well. Now we decided when we actually did the final version of the EP to keep it all instrumental. There may be some little hidden gems on this album coming up, but when we played it live, we triggered a sample of the presenter in the film Network, and Network's like the whole world's just gone to shit, and he's like giving this rant. Imagine like a news presenter just losing his mind on live national TV. And if you get a chance like to go on YouTube network speech and listen to it, you'll see what I mean.
It perfectly fit, didn't it?
It did. Like the timing was perfect, and the vibe when you think about Chasm. I always saw Chasm imagery wise as like kind of like what you said. It's sort of everything crashing and tumbling down and just chaos, and you're trying to like escape, and it's sort of like it's like a really weaving, meandering song through all this prog mayhem. But when you put that quote in the middle, it does kind of change. It gives it kind of context, and it makes it feel like it's sort of a lot of pent up frustration as well.
Yeah, and it features probably our most intentionally heavy section of any song at the end. We were like, let's just be really heavy. Like just to stay on the same note and hit it as hard as you can.
I mean that's
and just go for it.
That's so straight from the beginning. You are not above the law. It's like it's absolutely all about that bit. It's cool.
But live, that's so much fun.
It is.
No, I enjoy that.
So we hope you enjoy Chasm, or we should credit the original writer.
Chas Mulberry.
Chas Mulberry. Thanks, Chas.
Cheers.
So if you're listening through to the EP, you'll get to track 3, which is called Phoneme. And there's a reason we chose that word. We're looking for like something that could describe the vibe of the record. Davidoff?
Well, put simply, we wanted to make it so that the record kind of flowed and made one kind of thing, a bit like you do with a traditional album, even though it was an EP. It's kind of like a mini album. And so we started creating these kind of like little segues between the tracks, which kind of happened by, because we tracked the drums and then we tracked the bass, and then rather than pressing stop and moving to the next song, I just kind of like messed around in between the tracks. And then when it came for Beer to kind of layer up, he kind of noticed that I'd done that and then started adding bits to it as well. And it just turned out that because of where the project was, the first segue was the shortest. And obviously the segues would be shorter than the songs anyway. And so we were trying to come up with names for what that kind of transition period would be. And I kind of stumbled across the word phoneme, which is kind of like the smallest unit of sound. So it was kind of the smallest bit of noise on our record.
Yeah.
Um,
And so it just kind of made sense, and that's kind of what that is, I guess.
Yeah. It was what I remember hearing was like this. You had your expression pedal of your hog going with some distortion. It kind of created this kind of sound.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the ocean or something. And I been listening to loads of Thomas Newman like film score and stuff like that, which some of you have quite correctly pointed out that phoneme does sound a little bit like the American Beauty soundtrack. That was completely unintentional, and I had not even seen or heard the soundtrack.
I remember you calling me. You called me and you were like, "Dude, do you mind if I just rip off American Beauty?" And I was like, "Go for it." No,
yeah,
no.
That's exactly what happened. Okay, now we're on to Illumo, which is probably my favourite track on Ode to the Author. It's a really interesting song, I guess, in one sense. Like, when we first moved down south, the three of us, I was sat and it was like 2 a.m. and I had my guitar and my delay pedals out, and the whole intro, that whole like hand tapped was all done just like in my room, and it just got shelved. It just got left to one side. Didn't even think about it. It was just on a hard drive somewhere. And then we were in an old band called Chasing Jade, and we were in a rehearsal room, and I had the main riff and the and everyone would go in the room went, nah, I'm not really feeling it.
I remember.
And I was like, oh, what?
Yeah.
So it just got shelved. And like years later, me and Dave were at the Cove jamming, and it just came out. You started writing it.
It was a very weird way of us writing as well, because we you threw a couple of guitar ideas into Logic, and then I started trying to write what chords were going to move underneath and because it's kind of like a bass melody kind of section, and Beer ended up doing the drums. So Beer was just sat in the live room playing the drums for it in real time whilst I was writing the bass and recording it.
Yeah.
And we eventually just kind of like got to a point where we had a take. That
it was pretty much there.
Yeah, because I remember I was
it's only half finished.
I was elsewhere, and I remember on an evening just getting a text being like, so we wrote a song, and I was like,
Yeah,
cool.
we kind of have half the song done.
Yeah, it wasn't
And I got-
like, obviously
that
we
was
still had
cool.
to go back and refine and add all the details and all that kind of stuff.
But I remember that it was pretty much like the skeleton of it was there, like the groove, the melodies, those bound, bam, 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 you know, the middle. I thought it was awesome. And then I remember finding that middle bit really hard to do because we hadn't really done the whole like.
Yeah.
That's I still don't really know what that is. I just play it and I'm like, I know that if I get it feeling right, it'll sound right. But
Yeah.
it always feels like it's out of time until it comes perfectly back in on the one. It's such a hairy moment live.
Yeah, it's interesting whenever that kind of writing process happens because whenever drums get laid down, if Ben's not there, or if bass gets laid down and Dave's not there, it's still like what they would kind of do anyway because it's with that many years together. And like when we got to that part of the song, there was like the kind of back end of the song where it all breaks out and there's the chord and then it comes in with the build up and the big, and it was so easy to finish that song in the room because it was like
so much of it had been
the vibe was already there and everyone was already on the same page.
Yeah, it was really cool when it came. It's quite nice writing, although we don't really write a lot of stuff like that.
No,
it is really enjoyable when a vibe has already been established and like a skeleton's already there because a lot of that groundwork's been done. You just go in and you put your own personality on it, your own kind of flair. Yeah, I really like the Lumo. It's like I think when we don't get to play it live, say we're doing like
feels wrong.
Yeah, we're doing a shorter set. When we've got 30 minutes, which for us is like half a song.
Yeah.
We can't put a Lumo in. It's always kind of like, no one gets to see our chills. But
it's the like most chill out we have.
Yeah, it's cool.
I suppose just to end, we should explain the name behind a Lumo. What it actually means is
so after a Lumo, you've had your chill. You've got your chilling. It kind of goes to quite a dark transitionary tune called Anthropocene, which is the study or the understanding of how humans have impacted the world,
terribly,
and the earth, and our ecology and our environment and all that kind of stuff.
It literally means the significant impact that humans have had on the Earth's ecosystem.
Yeah.
I mean, not to go down that route, pretty big impact, I'd say.
Yeah, go humans.
Yeah, but Dave, with regards to the sound design and the general vibe of the track, because you did that on your own, Anthropocene.
I did.
That was literally you.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Did you not?
Dude, nice.
Well, if you wanted to know, part of what you're hearing is the sound of space. Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, you can go and find all the original audio as well. But NASA basically did a load of recordings of space.
Yeah, I remember.
And I think they took. Trying to remember exactly what this was now. At the time, I did a load of research into it. But they basically record all the sort of various different microwaves and gamma rays and all that kind of stuff that all the different celestial planets create, and then they manage to turn that into analog, electronic signals so that they can actually replicate what the noise would have been.
That's crazy.
So
it'd be great if it sounded like an actual Philips microwave. Like, your rice is done. Like, thanks, Jupiter.
But yeah, basically it was, I think Satan. People might know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Saturn.
That planet's Satan.
Which is Saturn.
Yeah.
That's literally what that means.
Really?
Yeah.
Dave, dropping the knowledge on this one. I love it.
So there's like...
There's lots of quotes going on. There's lots of speech. An infantile reaction.
Yeah, like a cheeky reference to the name of the next tune.
Yeah. So I just trawled through a load of different old movies and things like that, and just cut up bits of audio and messed around with stuff and just kind of created something really. Kind of helped do the transition and kind of explain the name really, Anthropocene. It kind of is all these different quotes of people just talking about humans and our impact and
it's deep, man.
I like it. Dave went deep zone Dave for a few days. I think it does ring a bell now. I remember speaking to Dave's girlfriend. I was like, "Is Dave originally?" Yeah, he's editing The Sound of Space and hasn't left his room for 4 days.
Dave in the deep.
Yeah, he's like, I love the way at the end of Anthropocene it sort of has that like, you know, reverse.
Like you turned the TV off.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
That was the idea.
yeah, that's
I think
cool.
I remember, we were like, how do we go into Infantile, which is the next track, and I think that was the best way because of the way Infantile starts.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Infantile,
The Infant Isle.
In Toys R Us, which has just gone into liquidation.
Wait,
really sad.
Toys R Us. I thought it was about a child's wedding.
No.
Oh, right.
Oh,
We are not on the
like
same
an infant
page
down
on
the
this
aisle.
track.
No, I thought it was about, like Beer said, about the child's toy aisle at Toys R Us, because the rest was all
Which
adult
one?
toys, to be honest.
Clifton Moore?
The one with...
Yeah.
Anyway, Infantile.
Infantile.
Our oldest...
You've got to stop doing that.
So, it's our oldest song.
It is our oldest song.
It's actually way older than the other songs on
It's
the record.
currently in the time in 2000. It's 7 years old.
Wow.
Actually, it's 8 years old.
Yeah, because you wrote
Yes,
in
it is.
2009.
Yeah.
2009, and I guess it was like when we look back on it, it was very much us transitioning from writing in our old band Chase and Jade, and when we wrote, because we wrote Infantile as Chase and Jade.
It was going to go on that album.
Yeah, but it was definitely like a complete curveball in terms of song and writing, wasn't it? Do you know what
Like
I mean?
if we rewind to 2009, we were writing and recording an album for Chase and Jade, which was the three of us and another guy named Charlie Robinson, who was our singer. And we'd written pretty much the whole album. We were like, yes, really happy. We needed one more song, and we all wanted a prog epic. I remember us saying prog epic was the remit.
Right.
Yeah.
So we started writing, and we unintentionally wrote a 10-minute song.
Yeah.
That felt to us at the time like it had an intro, a verse, a pre-chorus, chorus. It followed a very similar song structure to what we were used to in Chase and Jade, but actually when you look back on it, man, it's really long.
Yeah, it's long, and it's still like a marathon to play live, even though we have other long songs. There's just something about Infantile.
You get to the second chorus, you're like, halfway.
Yeah.
We're nearly there.
Normally, because it's the last song of the set,
Yeah.
so like, and we only ever play it if we're
You
doing
get to
like
the
a
tap
long
section,
set as well.
and it's like, right, home straight.
The home straight, the tap section, every time we get to that point in the song,
Really?
I'm going, this is the last bit, and then we're good. We're good.
Oh, you see, for me, it's literally like when we kick into the big six at the end.
Oh, okay.
Once we've got the gap, and I haven't missed the gap and ruined the whole song, then I'm like, oh god,
Yeah.
we're good.
No, I think it's fair to say that we, at the time, had no idea that it kind of paved the way for what we would be doing now.
Yeah.
Of course, we had no idea, but it was so relevant when we were writing
I
over
think,
the author.
like, it was even back then, even like earlier than 2009, even when we're talking about sort of 2007. I think we always wanted to write kind of what we're doing now, but we didn't have the experience and maybe maturity.
There were some old demos,
to
like
pull off what was in our heads.
we had a song called
Yeah.
Screb Enderched, and that was a song that was supposed to be like a proggy. We actually took a section from Screb Enderched and put it in Infantile.
Yeah,
That was from that?
Yeah.
Oh, man, wow.
but I think
yeah.
Infantile was the one that, because obviously Chase and Jade ended and we went off and did other things for quite a long time before Toska became a thing. But when it became a thing again, we started looking back at what we were trying to do back then, and Infantile just seemed like it was the only one that was.
Didn't need anything. It was like
It was still
Yeah.
relevant. Like
That's
I think,
really
I think when we
interesting,
wrote it, we were ahead of our time
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
And like after not doing that kind of music for years, we caught up with ourselves.
yeah.
And actually, had we not have written that, and had it not a bit, because it wasn't finished, and we just had, we had a recording of it. I think that kind of kept the fire alive in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like if you think about it, listening back to that over the years in between we started Toska, always knowing that we had written that last time we'd got into that headspace. At least for me, when we started to pick this back up again, it was. I think it was because it was in a lot of ways it was the excitement from that. We kind of go like, we're gonna write some prog.
Yeah.
And also, the whole Toska thing was us just doing
Whatever
we wanted to
Yeah.
do, and doing it however we wanted to do it. And if people liked it, loved it, hated it,
Didn't matter.
It didn't
Yeah.
really matter. It was
It's for
in a
us.
lot of ways, it's almost a self-indulgent project.
Yeah, because we'd been in all sorts of other bands doing other stuff together and separately, and we all three of us decided we just want to do this again.
And you know, when we were doing Chase and Jade back in the day, we gave 110% to that and nothing else, much at the compromise of many other things in our lives. And I think because we never finished the album, it was like the three of us kind of needed a bit of closure. And I think by ending Ode to Water with Infantile, it kind of,
there was closure there.
It cemented it, and we went, right, we can move on and see what else is going to come and take on the experiences and start rewriting.
And that's led us to this room.
It has.
Yeah, and to actually be doing our first album in 13 years of playing music together.
It actually is.
It's quite funny.
Yeah.
You know, not that we haven't released stuff and really, you know, and done all sorts of things, but in terms of an official long play record,
finally
got it, and it's happening in this room. So yeah, and it all really, as we said there, Toska started musically from Infantile, the last track on the EP. And there's another cheeky reference to our heritage on the new album, which is tiny, and we may in another commentary hear that at a future point, but we've kind of, I guess it like nicely rounds off the whole thing, doesn't it? It feels like it's kind of coming full circle.
So for now, you can sit back and enjoy listening to Ode to the Author on vinyl.
Yes, you can.
And that hopefully ties you over until our new record is out and reaches you.
Thank you all so very much for your support, love, and just general epicness towards us doing what we love.
Awesome. You're awesome.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. It's good vibes all around, and like I didn't think any of us expected we'd be able to do this band as we're doing it, and to have the level of support we've got already for how relatively little time we've been doing it. So thanks for getting the vinyl. Hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
Dave.
Bye.